in Genesis 49, but I want to ask this question before we start today. All right? Have you ever seen someone or seen a situation where you're like, they got what they deserved? Have you ever seen that? You're like, they got what they deserved. Yes. Right? That's never happened to us, right? Has it? It's never happened when we're driving down into Salmon Arm on this hill over here, and you just know you should slow down. But you see someone with red plates drive by you, and you're just like, yeah, this is good. They're going to get what they deserve, right? They're driving crazy in our town, right? How could they? How dare they, right? They're driving down, and, by some miracle, a cop pulls them over, and you drive by, and you just give them, the look, right? Have you ever done that? Okay, only me? I think when we look at someone, they get what they deserve. That's awesome, right? But it comes back to me. When I get what I deserve, that's the worst, isn't it? You're you've done something, and there's actions for it, there's a punishment for it. You're like, no. Wasn't me. Somebody else, right? I think it's just so easy for us to say to someone else, yeah, you got what you deserve. But when I get what I deserve, I don't want that, right? When I was a teenager, my parents bought a property in Quesnel, a 5-acre property, and my stepdad had this great idea to put on that property about 1.5 acres of grass, right? And I think the reason why he did that was because it looks amazing, but also he has a teenager to mow it. Right? And so I would mow this thing all spring and all summer and all fall, and that was my job with this push mower, right? And it took 3.5 to 4 hours to mow this lawn, right? But my parents, when I graduated, they did a smart thing when they bought a Rime lawnmower, right? Because there's no lawn around anymore. We're just going to replace Kolby with a Rime lawnmower. And so when I came back from college, Bob asked me to intern under him, our campus pastor in Sycamoose, and in Quesnel. And so I moved back, and about the first month back, right, I'm driving the Rime lawnmower, and I have my earbuds in because I have this brand new thing called the iPod Nano, right? And I'm listening to music, and usually I drive down this hill, right, when I'm mowing the lawn, and for some reason I just forgot I'm driving up the hill. And it's right next to this deck that he just built and finished. And I'm driving up, and there's this attachment that goes over to the buckets in the back, and it gets caught on the bottom of the deck and just tears it up, right? And I'll never forget, I didn't even notice it because the music was so loud, right? So I pull around mowing, and I'm like, what just happened? Who did that, right? And I remember thinking to myself, I can't believe what I did. Just terrified, right? And I remember I went, like any smart person would do, I went and I put it back on, right? And I got a hammer from the garage, and I tried to smooth it out, right? And I remember standing back and being like, I can see it still. Oh, okay, if I go back further, right? And then I go back even further. I can still see it. What am I going to do? Because I just knew when my stepdad got home, I was going to get what I deserve. It's awful, right? And so mom came home, and I told my mom, and she's like, oh my goodness, look at what you did. Which, almost drove into me this deep sense of fear, right? I am really going to get what I deserve. Then he came home after working a 12-hour shift at the pulp mill, comes home, and he's tired, and I go, I just got to go, and I'll I'll meet him before he gets inside. I say, Wilf, I used the lawnmower, and I ran it into the deck. And I was like, I'll pay for it. I'm so sorry. I felt awful, right? And I said, okay, we'll talk about it later, right? And then he goes inside, and he gets washed up, and comes back out for dinner, and I'm just waiting, that the expectation, what's going to happen? Am I really going to get what I deserve in this moment? And he comes out, and I'm just waiting and waiting and waiting. And I'm the kind of guy who I just want to know right away, just tell me like it is. Don't sugarcoat it. I want to rip that Band-Aid off. I don't want to slowly peel it off. And he comes out, and he's like, yeah, about the deck. Don't worry about it. I was like, what? Don't worry about it? What do you mean? I'll pay for it. And he's like, yeah, no, it's fine. I'll fix it. Because he knows I can't fix it. And he's like, I'll fix it. It's okay. You see, there's a moment there where I knew what I deserved, but I didn't get it. And it still felt awful. You see, when it's so easy to say, yeah, they got what they deserved, but when you get what you deserve, it's the worst moment ever. You see, we're looking at a passage today where there's these brothers. And Jacob's blessing his sons, right? And they're the sons of Leah. And he's going to bless them. And some of them are going to get what they deserve, right? And some aren't. And we're looking at this passage in Genesis 49, verse 1. So flip there. Genesis 49, verse 1. That's where we'll start today. Then Jacob called his sons and said, "Gather yourselves, that I may tell you what shall happen to you in the days to come. Assemble and listen, O sons of Jacob. Listen to Israel your father. Reuben, you are my firstborn, my might, and the first fruits of my strength, preeminent in dignity and preeminent in power. Unstable as water, you shall not have preeminence. Because you went up to your father's bed, then you defiled it. He went up to my couch. Simeon and Levi are brothers. Weapons of violence are their swords. Let my soul come not into their counsel. O my glory, be not joined to their company. For in their anger they killed men, in their willfulness they hamstrung oxen. Cursed be their anger, for it is fierce, and their wrath, for it is cruel. I will divide them in Jacob and scatter them in Israel. Judah, your brothers shall praise you. Your hand shall be on the neck of your enemies. Your father's son shall bow down before you. Judah is a lion's cub. From the prey, my son, you have gone up. He stooped down. He crouched as a lion, and as a lioness, who dare rouse him? The scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor the ruler's staff from between his feet, until the tribute comes to him, and to him shall be the obedience of the people. Binding his foal to the vine, and his donkey's colt to the choice vine, he has washed his garments in wine, and his vestures in the blood of grapes. His eyes are darker than wine, his teeth are whiter than milk. You see, there's a passage here of Jacob, and Jacob is an interesting guy. Jacob, I'd say, is like a blessing junkie, right? Like he needed the blessing. That's true about him. Like you look back in the early parts of his life, what did he do? He trades for a better blessing. Then after that, what does he do? He goes and he tricks his father for a blessing. Chapters later, right, he encounters an angel of the Lord, and he wrestles with this angel of the Lord to get what? A blessing. You see, Jacob is such a blessing junkie, and it only fits at the end of his life. What is he going to do? He's going to crowd all of his sons together. Come on over, all my sons, and I'm going to bless you. You see, the blessing that Jacob gives to his sons, the blessing that Jacob wants, is so much different than any of our ideas what a blessing means. Right? Like, don't we say things like, "Hey, Rylan, have a blessed day"? You know, like, what does that even mean? I don't know. But we say this all the time, right? These words of, we say like, "Be blessed," you know, or say like, David McMaster create an email and say, "Hey, Kolby, your sermon makes no sense. Blessings, David McMaster." Right? It's like almost like just like a fill-in word. You see, I think when we look at blessings today, this is kind of the context, we think this. We think a special favor, mercy, or benefit, a favor, gift bestowed by God, thereby bringing happiness, the invoking of God's favor upon a person, praise, devotion, worship, especially grace said before a meal, approval or good wishes. You see, we think about blessings in those terms. When I first came and saw this idea of Jacob blessing his sons, I was like, what does that even mean? Like, what does that blessing mean? And here's what it means. A blessing has a way to cast vision over. Jacob does more than just predict the future for his sons. His blessing has the power to shape what will happen to his descendants. Isn't that crazy that his words that are spoken over his sons has a way to shape his sons' to shape generations? That's nothing like just saying, "Hey, have a blessed day." He's speaking words that are going to shape them. And that's the reason why Jacob was so willing to deceive his dad and wrestle with the angel of the Lord to get a blessing, to hopefully be shaped and have a better destiny. You see, to sum up all these passages that we're looking at today, in verse 28, it says here, this is kind of the context of everything. It says here, this is what their father said to them as he blessed them, blessing each with the blessing suitable to them. You see, Jacob is blessing his sons by just like kind of the way they live their lives. right? So he's going to kind of like sum up their lives and give them like this blessing according to how they did it, how they lived their lives as Jacob's been alive. And what you realize in this passage, that some sons get a blessing and some get curses, which must be the worst thing ever. Right? It quickly turns into a curse for some sons. So the first son he talks to is Reuben. He says here, Reuben, you are my firstborn, my might, and the first fruits of my strength, preeminent in dignity and preeminent in power. Like if you're Reuben, you're like, yes, finally, I'm getting mine. Right? Like if you look at this passage, Reuben, right, already kind of like lost his blessing to who? Joseph. Right? So here he is in this room full of his brothers, and he's like, yes, finally my dad is going to bless me. Right? And Jacob's like, you are strong. You are powerful. You're the firstborn. And it moves down, and moving down to this next part, you probably almost hear a pin drop. Right? Because he's like almost like rebuking Reuben. It says here, unstable as water, you shall not have preeminence. Because you went up to your father's bed, then you defiled it, and you went up to my couch. You see, this word here, unstable, means like wildness and unruly. And when applied to this idea of water, it's like this uncontrollable torrent. And that was Reuben's life. If you're seeing someone's life and you just like, there's nothing ruly about it, it's just so wild and out of control. Think of almost like a prodigal, right? That was Reuben. Reuben was just wild and crazy. And I think this is the reason why when Jacob's voice turned to his brothers and said, he went up to my couch, which sums up his incestuous relationships with his father's wife. You see, the prediction that he gives, or the curse that he gives to Reuben and all the descendants of Reuben, is this one thing. He says here, you will not exceed. You will not excel. Which is pretty harsh to say to your firstborn son. You will not excel. But see, Reuben, you look at according to his whole life, how he lived his life, he will not excel. The sum total of Reuben's whole life didn't add up. And that's why Jacob blessed him this way. The next up is Simeon and Levi. And this is like every middle child's worst nightmare, right? Just getting like lumped up together, right? It's like they don't even get their own blessing. It's just like, they're there together. And Simeon and Levi lumps them together because they're so similar. You see, it says here, Simeon and Levi are brothers, weapons of violence are their swords. Let my soul come not into their counsel. O my glory, be not joined to their company. For in their anger they killed men, and in their willfulness they hamstrung oxen. Cursed be their anger, for it is fierce, and their wrath, for it is cruel. I will divide them in Jacob, and I will scatter them in Israel. You see, these two brothers, Simeon and Levi, have created some awful acts of genocide, right? They went into Shechem, and they killed all these Shechemites. Like, we're talking everyone. So they're murderers. And so their father looks at them and says, according to your whole life, the sum total of how you lived, this is the blessing. You're going to be scattered. You're not going to be blessed. You're going to be cursed. You're going to scatter. You look later on in the Old Testament, there's something amazing happens, right? And actually, this tribe of Levi ends up getting God's grace and getting restored, and they become like this priestly line in Israel. But Simeon gets this curse, and it affects his sons. They're always scattered. Always. You see, Judah is the only one here who gets the blessing. And Judah was by no means perfect. He wasn't. But you know what? He exhibited fine qualities when the opportunity presented itself. And the result, he lifted up his name, which meant praise. You know, Jacob said of himself, of Judah, in verse 8, he says here, Judah, your brothers shall praise you. Your hands shall be on the neck of your enemies. Your father's son shall bow down before you. Now, if you had a good memory, which some of you do, right? And you remember what happened to your other brother named Joseph, which this sounds very similar to that when he starts out. Or if I was Judah, I'd be like slowly like, okay, I'm getting out of here. Like, you know, I said, my dad said they're going to bow down to me, and I know what they did last time to that guy, and I'm out. Right? But something happens here between what they already did with Joseph and this encounter of Jacob at the end of his life. Right? See, Judah has been changed. He has this encounter with Tamar. And then you notice when he comes into Egypt to get food, right, with his brothers, and Joseph plays this trick on him, right, and plants this thing in their bag, and he wants to take Benjamin. And Judah's like, no, no, no. I will go in place of the youngest brother, Benjamin. You see, it showed a change of heart on Judah's part. You see, I think that's the reason why Judah gets his blessing. It's because he has a changed heart for what he's done. You see, these words in Judah aren't words for Judah are not about him. They're pointing to someone who's bigger than Judah, someone who's more powerful than Judah, someone who's going to be a king, who's all powerful, and that's Jesus. You see, it's amazing that Judah didn't get what he deserved, but Reuben, Levi, and Simeon did. You see, these brothers were kind of the sum total of their whole lives. But can you imagine if we got what we really deserved? Ever thought about that? Like, if we got what we really, really deserved. You know, at the end of our lives, if this was us, and we sat down with our dad, and he gave us a blessing or a curse by the way we lived. That'd be awful. You know, like, I don't know about you, but, like, I would not want to go in that room. Like, do not let me get anywhere near that. I'd be like, I'm out of here. You know, like, I don't want a curse. But here's the thing, right? Through Judah, we get something so different. You see, these brothers, Reuben, Levi, and Simeon, they got what they deserved. But through Judah, we don't get what we deserve. Right? We get a king, a powerful king, and we get redemption through this person named Jesus. You see, the language Jacob uses for Judah is this royal language. It points to a king. It points to someone, we're talking like a president fighting with some crazy other world leader. We're talking about someone who's really powerful. Someone who could change things. Everything. He says here first, says here, Judah is a lion's cub. Right? There's this royal language. In Revelation 5:5, it designates Jesus as a lion of the tribe of Judah. Jesus is a lion of the tribe of Judah. It moves on to say, the scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor the ruler's staff from between his feet, until tribute comes to him. And to him shall be the obedience of the people, and there will be someone who will rule, and this ruler will show power. Just circle those. There will be someone who will rule, circle rule, and this ruler will show power, circle power. You see, these brothers got what they deserve, but we get this king who's going to change everything, who's going to be a real ruler, who's going to give people what they really deserve, and people who really should deserve it, he's going to give them grace and redemption and freedom. It changes everything. But here's the thing, these brothers, they were under this thing called retribution theology, right? And retribution theology is basically the idea that you get what you deserve, that God sees to it that the good people get the good things in their lives and the bad people get bad things. God punishes people in this world in direct response to their actions. Retribution theology says, for example, if you get cancer, it's a sign that God's is punishing you for something bad you've done. Like, I think if you've been around church for a while, you see that come up all the time, right? I've seen sometimes when working with students and they're like, oh, you know, I just want to be known for doing more good than bad in my life, you know? And I think sometimes that when we look at our own lives, we're parenting, you know, we're trying to produce good kids, aren't we? But somewhere deep down in us, there's this idea that you get what you deserve. If you've done good, you get more good. If you've done bad, you get more bad. That's not the gospel. That's not Jesus. Thank goodness. Because I'd be standing on a street corner every day by the bank trying to atone for my salvation. It sounds exhausting. But redemption's this, the New Testament, deliverance from sin and freedom from captivity. It's deliverance from sin and freedom from captivity. That we were held captive by this way of thinking, by sin, by thinking that we're the sum total of our whole lives. You see, through Judah, we get a ruler, a real king, who's going to deliver us and set us free. We get redemption. We get what we don't deserve. You and I don't deserve that. Look at the cross, and we get it. But we get life, and we get Jesus. And that's the blessing. Isn't that? Like, that's the blessing. That gets me excited about waking up every day, that Jesus is with me. The blessing continues on to show us more of this king and his extravagance and his kingdom. It says here, binding his foal to the vine and his donkey's colt to the choice vine. He has washed his garments in wine, and his vestures in the blood of grapes. His eyes are darker than wine, his teeth are whiter than milk. You see, it's showing that there's this one that's coming who's going to hold a scepter, who's going to be a ruler, who's going to be all powerful. It's talking about this language of wine. It's so excessive. Like if you drink a little bit of wine and you spill a little bit on yourself, it's not a big deal, right? But can you imagine the excessiveness of plunging something in, staining the clothes? That's the excessiveness of a kingdom. You see, it alludes right here to Jesus, but also it alludes to Jesus' first miracle. And I love Jesus' first miracle because it's just so revolutionary and life-changing. In John chapter 2. He shows up, right, at a party of all places, at a wedding party. And he turns water into wine. And not just like we're talking like those little like communion cups of wine that we have. Like we're talking a lot of wine that he produced. Probably the best wine ever tasted. It says here in John chapter 2, verse 1, on the third day, there was a wedding at Cana in Galilee. And the mother of Jesus was there. Jesus was also invited to the wedding with his disciples. When the wine ran out, the mother of Jesus said to him, "They have no wine." And Jesus said to her, "Woman, what does this have to do with me? My hour has not yet come." His mother said to the servants, "Do whatever he tells you." Now there are 6 stone water jars there for the Jewish rites of purification, each holding 20 or 30 gallons. Jesus said to the servants, "Fill the jars with water," and they filled them up to the brim. He said to them, "Now draw some out and take it to the master of the feast." So they took it. When the master of the feast tasted the water, had now become wine. He did not know where it came from. But the master of the feast called the bridegroom and said to him, "Everyone serves good wine first, and when people have drunk freely, then the poor wine. But you have kept the good wine until now." This is the first of his signs Jesus did at Cana in Galilee. It manifested his glory. His disciples believed in him. You see, I think it goes back to Judah. There's this excessiveness of the kingdom of God that shows his glory and his power. You know, I think it's just so easy for us, you know, in our world to think about our glory and our power, isn't it? Like, I think about how I strive to do certain things. I think about early on in my life when I was striving to get good grades. If I just got good enough grades, you know, my parents wouldn't punish me. I didn't have good grades, okay? And then I went to Bible college. I was like, if I just get good grades, I can be a pastor. I don't know if that matters, but, you know. And then I went to seminary, and I was like, I just want to finish school. And then, you know, I met Lori, the love of my life, and I'm like, I need to marry this woman. You know, and then we need to have a family together, and then we need to buy a house because that's what people do. And then I need to accumulate more and more and more and more and more and more and more things, right? Like, isn't that what we do? Isn't this kingdom sometimes about us, not about Christ? It's about our power, it's about our glory, but we're looking at this passage here, and it's about his glory and his power. You see, I think sometimes we are striving to make our glory known in the world. There's this great quote by this guy named Scott Sauls, and Ben has been referring to this guy in the last few months. Or this great book called Befriend. He has this great thing. It says here, Buddha's last words were never cease striving. But Jesus' last words were, it's finished. Amen to that. Right? That we don't have to be known for our sum total of our life. That we can actually be known because he's finished it. We're known, our identity's found in him, not in all these other things. But I don't know about you, but I leave this building, okay? And there's just something in my heart where I'm like, I need more stuff. Like last summer, my friend took me on his boat, right? We're wake surfing. We live in the Shuswap. You should be on the water, right? Right? Everyone needs a boat, right? So we're on the water, and this amazing, expensive boat, and we're wake surfing, and I get off that boat, and the first thought I have in my head, right, is I need a boat, right? I was like, I step off the boat, I'm like, I need this thing to make my life better, fuller, richer. Like I could actually enjoy life now. I'll never forget, I went home, I told Lori, my wife, I'm like, Lori, we need a boat. Let's mortgage the house. It's going to be worth it, trust me. Like, we'll never holiday ever again anywhere else. We'll just boat around, right? She goes, what? What about the gas to fill that thing? We'll figure it out, not a big deal. But you see, I think, I'm being honest there, but we do that for a lot of different things. Don't we? Look at other people and we go, man, if I just had what they had, if I just had this car, if I just had this thing, if I just had this one thing that's on my Amazon wish list, right? We're striving, and it's exhausting. Aren't you exhausted? Like, I'm exhausted sometimes for how hard I'm striving to make my life better, to make my kids' life better, whatever that means. You see, I think we think sometimes, and I think, that we're the sum total of our lives. That every action, that every decision we make hinges of getting to the kingdom of God. We forget that we live in the sum total of Jesus' life. That's what we rest in. He said it's finished. He didn't say, go and strive some more. He's like, it's finished. Rest in that. I think this week when we look at this idea of striving, I think it's just it's an epidemic, I think, in our culture. That we're just trying to strive for more things. In Christianity, I've counseled so many people who've been like, I just want to do more. I want to do good. And I'm like, you're striving. Why are you doing that? Jesus said it's finished. I just feel like I need to do something. Yeah, just love your neighbor. Love your kids, love your family. Simple things. But I think we forget. And I think this week, you might just need someone who's going to walk alongside you and say, hey, are you striving? Have you forgot the gospel? If I'm honest, I drive out of here. I live about 5 minutes away. And I love to sit here under Ben's teaching week in, week out. But I drive home and I forget everything. Don't you? It's the worst thing ever. Maybe I'm just that simple. But I drive out of here and I think, man, I need to get my kids a meal, maybe. Or maybe I need to pick up something for lunch. Or, later on today, there's a birthday party. Or, man, I got to figure a way to pay for this bill. Or I need to figure out how to pay for all these things. Or I need to figure out how to pay for a holiday I want next year. Or I need to figure out how to get a boat. Or just a really great friend with a boat. I think we think so quickly we leave here and we just start striving again and again and again to get more and more stuff. I don't know about you, but every time Amazon shows up at my house, I'm excited until I open that thing and I'm like, oh, cool, put it on my shelf again, it's another book. Because it will never satisfy me like Christ will satisfy me. All of our striving will never satisfy us enough. You see, I think we need to be reminded of this all the time because I need to be reminded of this all the time. That when I leave here, I just forget. I think for some of you, it might just be asking Jesus for forgiveness today for striving for so long. Because maybe you're sitting there and you're like, yeah, I'm so exhausted. I am exhausted. I forgot about Jesus and I've been striving and trying to do all this extra stuff to try to make him happy, to make my family happy, to make my husband or my wife happy, to make my kids happy. Maybe just asking for forgiveness that I've been striving for too long and I forgot the fact that Jesus strived for me. So I don't need to do that anymore. Maybe just sitting in worship today and being like, God, you are so great. You are so powerful. This is all about your glory and your power and your kingdom. And that's enough. Let's pray. God, I thank you for your power and your kingdom. Thank you for how much you love us and love me. I think about how much of my life is about striving. And I am so sorry for that. that I am tired of trying to make it on my own. I'm so tired of feeling like sometimes I'm the sum total of my whole life, that I'm being judged for the way I live my life and the way I organize it, and I'm focused on being successful a lot of times, Lord, and I think I know that's not what you want. Father, I pray that I rest in what you said, it's finished. There's nothing more I need to do. That I can rest in you. That through your life, death, and resurrection, it has changed everything about me and everything about us. And because of that, I can live for the very first time. Father, I know you love us. You care for us. We are your children. God, I pray you guide us and direct us, that you'd remind us, you remind me how quickly I forget the gospel, how quickly I forget and I exchange it for striving. Lord, remind me, convict me, break my heart for the things that break your heart. In Jesus' name, amen.